All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Toast the Toss. Like we said, numbers don't matter, so we don't know what is the episode number, but either which ways. And we have our famous and favorite panelists. So we have Arijit, we have Bidhu, we have Tejas, and we have Sanskar on the panel today. All right, gentlemen, first question. How many of you were really happy with the England win in the third test? Okay, that's Bidhu, that's Sanskar, Tejas. Oreo is the only person who looks gloomy, like the weather at Headingley. Okay, so quickly going across the room, I want each of you. I just want you to talk about what went well and what are the improvement areas for both the teams. Let's start with you, Arijit, because you look gloomy.
The positives were that there was nothing positive. Australia lost. Uh, One thing I actually loved about the test was the pitch was the best pitch so far that was offered during the test. So that made it very keenly followed test, and especially there was a rain on the third day, if I'm not mistaken. So that also added a little bit spice to the game, and uh, unfortunately, Australia collapsed in the second innings and gave it on the platter to England. It was on a platter, but England also did the traditional English, went back to the traditional English way of caving in, but they scrambled through the last few runs or minutes.
Thanks. That was sarcasm mixed with positive and negative. I don't know what was positive, what was negative, but we will take that. What about you, Bidhu?
I think from an England perspective, Harry Brook was a positive because they were facing some issues. Oli Pope is not there. Bairstow's form is a little bit dipping. So they had to see where to place Harry Brook. So is it at number 3 or number 5? So him doing well at number 5 is a good sign for England. They can progress with that, which they have already done. I think Moeen Ali is going to bat at number 3. Apart from that, the win is good just for the series point of view because the series could have been 3-0 on either side. On the first test, the Australian bowlers saved Australia by batting well, and this time both the same thing happened with Australia. The bowlers of England, Woods and Wokes, batted really well to bail them out. So I think these two would augur well, and also the bowling lineup of England with Wood, Wokes, in the side is I think is more penetrable than having a Tong and Robinson on their side.
Hmm. Yeah, okay. There are a couple of these points which we'll revisit when we're doing a preview of the test, but we'll hold on to that. Sanskar, what about you?
For me, one clear positive, as I had mentioned in one of our previous videos, we need to have Mark Wood. Like I said in the last video, he would test the Aussie batters a little more. Sure, as Arijit had suggested, pitch also had a role to play a little bit, but I think he bowled beautifully. He had those two little cameos making all the difference. Vokes also had a part to play in it, contributing well with the ball. With batting, there are still things that they can improve upon, but all in all, I think a good collective teamwork, which I felt was in bits and pieces from an English POV. With Australia, I wouldn't be too worried or wouldn't press the panic button just yet. I think they've been doing things that have worked in their favor, except for that second innings where they had a collapse of sorts. But having said that, they still ensured they keep themselves in the game. So all in all, a good contest and looking forward to the fourth test.
Right. What about you, Tejas?
I think traditionally in England, we've seen that the number eights have been quite crucial. I think Suraj dropped off, but yeah, I'll continue with that. Pete Sam Curran against India, in the first test, we saw Pat Cummins as well, batting at number 8 and scoring a few vital runs. So the number 8 this time was Chris Wokes, and for me, he was the game changer. I was really shocked that he was not, playing at Lords with the kind of record he has over there. Vokes couple of wickets here and there and few runs, you never know. The series could have been 2-1 for England. Vokes for me was probably the most important player for England. And as far as Australia, I concur with Sanskar. I don't think they have a lot to worry about. And Patrick Cummins is bowling beautifully. And I've followed him for since he made his debut. I think in 2013 times he played against South Africa. The kind of consistency he has, and the terror that he, uh, the terror that the opposing teams, right, they feel when he's bowling, it's unnatural. So I think Australia is still in the pole position to win the Ashes, but yeah, they don't need to worry too much about whatever happened in the third test, and looking forward to the fourth test now.
Got it. Right on cue then. Now we've done and dusted. Point to remember, we called, or Sanskar called, the rule is going to make a difference and England's going to win. So just us basking in the English glory like the Western Terrace. Okay. Moving on to the fourth test then. Preview of the fourth test. Couple of questions. Let's start with Australia. Now that we've spoken a lot about England. How do they solve the multiple all-rounders coming good? Play both Mitch and Green? And who do they drop? And where does any of you want to suggest drop Warner and get Green to the top? No? So
it's a tough one, no? I mean, you cannot trust Travis Head or Cameron Green or even Mitchell Marsh to open in England. Then again, Warner has not done all that well anyway. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to be Pat Cummins now. It can go either way, I feel. Warner is not a sure shot, and many wouldn't like Warner to be dropped either. So.
I think the only tinkering they can do is in the bowling, and the reason being these Australian bowlers, like we saw Cummins in the last innings of the third Test match. He bowled his heart out, and how much toll would it take on his body is something that, or on the body of all his colleagues over there in the fast battery. I wonder if they could rotate the bowlers a little bit, because they would have some uh, fresh energy coming if they rotate. I would rather go with Cameron Green and Mitch Marsh both, and I think possibly we could drop Stark, or if Australia go on to win this, then I would drop Cummins in the next test also.
That's a bold caller. Drop Stark to accommodate Mitch and Green, okay?
Only because I need fresh legs or some. Because the same thing had happened against India when India was touring Australia. I think the same bowlers were bowling, and by the end of the series, India had it easy.
By the end of the series, I thought India did not. India just had. They looked around the dressing room. They said, "Whoever is fit, you get a."
No, for Australia, for Australian bowlers, they were tired. And for India, you had a steady supply of even net bowlers coming and bowling.
Yeah, I know that was series of a lifetime, right? I don't think any team can ever replicate that. Okay, so you're calling for Stark to be
Stark or any bowler, means like it could be Boland or anyone, but drop one person to see a fresh energy over there.
Okay. Bidhu, you were going to say something?
I was actually playing around with Arijit's point. The only difference was, so when you play both of them, the batting stretches to 8. And also you have Cummins who can also bat, which means if they have to drop a bowler, I would drop, I think Todd Murphy was there. I didn't make much of an impact. So you can go with an all-pace attack. But then it depends upon whether Old Trafford is a good enough pitch for all paces. According to England, it is a good pitch for paces because James Anderson is in. But again, the flip side with Australia is that both Head and Smith are not as good as bowlers as the root. So they will be going with completely non-spin attack. But I would have preferred Mitchell Marsh giving away to Cameron Green because he came in for him. and it's not that Mitchell Marsh has been doing well. It's just a one brilliant innings which he played, and dropping Warner and substituting anyone, Head and Cameron Green, is a big shuffle that I don't think Australia will risk at this stage of the series. So the only option my hand is drop a Todd Murphy, go in with all pace attack by looking at the pitch.
Yeah, too risky though, right? Bidhu? I mean, it's at Old Trafford, right? I mean, Headingley, yes, maybe even Edgbaston, yes, but Old Trafford, would you want to go with an all-pace attack?
England have the same, right? England also do not have a Barring Moeen Ali. They don't also have a good spinner, so it will be
Have
speed
Joe
versus
Root.
pace anyways. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Joe Root is slightly better than Head and Smith.
Yes.
But, don't give wicket to Joe Root and make sure it cancels out. Like no spinners on either side.
I mean, yeah. Might
Too
even
many
work,
ifs
yeah.
and buts.
Just going to say that if they drop Mitch Marsh, I think Sean and Mitch's father are never going to leave Bali. They're like, we came to Bali, we were partying, and then our son scored a century. So till he scores the next century, we're just going to live in Bali forever. So that's the only risk of dropping Mitch Marsh.
Yeah, the
What
only
about-
way Marsh can play is that you bring in Sean Marsh in place of David Warner. That will solve all the problems.
Yeah, any which ways, right? I mean, if David Warner is toward Broad's bunny there, like you can just put a stump there and then ask Borat to hit it and say, okay, fine, we are one down now, let's play. But okay, there's a question of Hazelwood as well, right? So with Hazelwood being fit, they might want to bring him back. But yeah, I mean, Pat Cummins, if he continues to play this test, he would have played 5 tests non-stop, including the India one. Same with right? I think did Stark play the India test?
No, he did, but I think he was dropped for the first game, no?
Yes,
Okay,
of
interesting.
course.
So I think it's only Pat Cummins who's probably going to play all the 5 tests, and if he plays the 5th Ashes, he might play the 6th one too. That's tough. Okay, so are you guys calling? So most of you are saying drop Mitch. Who's saying drop Mitch Marsh for Green?
I was
No,
hinting at it. I was hinting at it.
Yeah, so Bidhu says drop
I
Mitch Marsh
won't
for
pick
Green.
around the Aussie playing 11. I think it's working for, like, I'm not a believer of breaking something that's already been working for you. So I think just go with the same 11.
For me, if Cameron Green was bowling well, I would have picked him ahead of Marsh. But we saw Marsh bowling a few good spells over there at Headingley. I mean and he batted well anyway. I think he looked the best out of all Aussie batsmen. Right? So I would still go ahead with Mitch Marsh ahead of Cameron Green.
Interesting. Okay. So you guys are saying play the same team.
Yep. More or less.
Okay.
More or less.
All right. Now let's come to England. Moeen Ali at number 3. Is that like a trump card surprise, or is Moeen Ali the joker in the pack?
Yeah.
We can see what Sanskar is saying. I think they have announced the team, so he's already there. So it's just that we have to give our views.
No. Am I audible?
Yeah, you
Yes, you're already.
Okay, Moeen Ali at 3, a big no. I want to, like, this is me being a complete purist. I want a conventional batsman at number 3. I can entertain the option of promoting Bairstow at number 3 for once, but not being completely irrational and going for Moeen Ali. That can work for CSK, it can't work for England.
Yeah, what is it? You're going to say something.
Okay, the sad part of Moeen Ali is that when he was introduced as a player in the English team, he was a batsman. He was a conventional batsman. Only the Indian team touring at that point of time, they made him as a batting all-rounder. Because I remember one test they just gave the wickets to him, and he was like he was just taken as a replacement bowler or something, and he took more than 5 wickets if I'm not mistaken.
I think this was the Southampton test in 2018. They had to chase 234.
No,
They choked. And Kohli has this weird ability of, Kohli has this weird energy of getting the best out of Moeen Ali, because he bowls one unplayable delivery to Kohli and ends up hitting the stumps. So I remember that test,
Like
Southampton
the
2018.
Indian team gifted Moin English team a spinner, or else they did not have anyone in this as a spinner in their team. So unfortunately, like people consider him as a bowling all-rounder, but the thing about Moeen Ali is that he went and asked Brendan McCullum to send him at number 3. So I think they were experimenting. He took that responsibility on himself. And possibly of that only they are showing him as, I think he will come lower down the order. But if it is a little competitive in the second innings, he might come as one.
No, so here's the problem they have, right? Harry Brook hasn't performed well at 3. He is a definitive fail-safe because he's performed really well at 5. So they can't move Harry Brook out of 5. Bairstow, they might send him to 3, they might not. You don't know. They don't have another option. They need a spinner. So my hunch is they might continue with Moeen Ali. They'll say that, go play a T20 innings or do whatever, get 20s, 30s, you get out on top, that's fine. But that's it. It is where it is.
Or I know the English 11 is out, but I would have entertained the thought of maybe playing a certain Adil Rashid or Rehan Ahmed. I hear great things about that kid. I would have entertained that option of playing him as a spinner and maybe bringing Ben Foakes at number 3.
Ben
That,
Foakes,
who would you drop then?
I think he's dropping Johnny Bairstow, right, Sanshar?
He's
wait.
dropping Bairstow and Moeen Ali actually.
yeah,
Okay, I didn't think that through. My bad.
Because
But yeah, I didn't want, essentially, I didn't want Moeen Ali in the 11 because I
but-
would add value with another spinner,
sorry.
another effective spinner.
So unfortunately for Ben Foakes, I think he does not come in the scheme of Bazball that is being played by Brendan McCullum. So he's not in favor of Ben Foakes because he's a very conventional batsman.
I mean, with the type of series they've had where their Bazball was slightly hit and a miss, it wouldn't be the worst option of going with Ben Foakes. But again, yeah, your POV also holds weight. Yeah, they may not
You-
go with Ben Foakes.
if you want an out and out batsman, why not go for Dan Lawrence, right? He's
Yeah.
right. He's been impressive. But yeah, I mean, this English team, you don't know what they do. I mean, that's one of the key factors of their success over the last years. Who
Yeah,
are
I'm about to say that, don't be surprised that, they might send Ben Stokes. They might say you're the captain, right? You can do magical things. Go at 3. If it works. Doesn't work, fair enough. Fine. We have batting till what? Now, other than Anderson, everybody can bat. Wood can come and score 24 out of 8, 24 out of 4 balls. He can do whatever. Wokes can bat. Stuart Broad can bat. So Anderson is the only one who cannot bat.
Yeah, the
Okay.
only thing, like the last point that I want to make is this is the first time in England, not only Ashes, but comparing all tests, both the openers are doing really well. I think post Andrew Strauss and Alistair Cook, there was always one opening batsman who was always used to get out in the first couple of overs, and the number 3 was always in the middle. But it's the first time the number 3 is coming a bit late. That would have helped England make this decision that let's keep the number 4, 5, 6 as it is, because Harry Brook is good at number 5. Ben Stokes, the clarity of thought which he has when he comes to bat, augurs well for England. If he has to go all out, he goes all out. If he has to defend, he defends. And you don't want to risk Bairstow at that, because the only hope of Bairstow doing well is against an older ball with some scores on the board. So I think it's fine. It's a fail-proof for England, and they just didn't want. I don't know about the ability of Don Lawrence to continue with the Bazball, but I think Moeen Ali fits into the scheme of things. He can score quickly, rotate strike, and keep things continuing.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Root is not going to come to number 3, although traditionally he's a number 3 batsman. But okay, he's scoring truckloads of runs at 4. Okay, let's move on from Moeen Ali to James Anderson. Would this be his swan song? Do you think he's got one last hurrah?
But one last hurrah, I think he will be there for another 2-3 years.
Yeah, but he's not going to play another Ashes in England for sure.
Not in England, but Australia definitely. I don't think so that guy can quit.
I think
Well,
I think he'll play 200 test matches for sure. No, just kidding.
As much as I would love to see him continue bowl, even England needs to think beyond Anderson. So yeah, maybe if there is that one test, one farewell test of sorts, this could be the one for all we know.
Because between this and the next test, there's a very short gap, right? This was the
Yeah.
only test where they had 10 days.
9
or
days, yeah.
9 days, right? So I don't know. I mean, maybe if he performs really well, maybe he could play on the fifth, but I don't know. In my mind, I think this is one last hurrah for Anderson. Traditionally, I thought Old Trafford was a spinning pitch. Are you guys surprised that they have included Anderson, or are they planning to prepare a green top? Anybody has any insights?
There's no other spinner, right, in the England squad to even get him into the playing 11. And I mean, what better way than watching Anderson bowl from the James Anderson end?
Oh, okay. So he's got the yeah. That's going to be
He's
history.
the local boy.
Yeah.
I mean,
And if they
any-
are leaving grass, it better be like Headingley, because it need not be misleading like Edgbaston and Lords. So let's see.
Yeah.
Traditionally, James Anderson has known to do well in Old Trafford, so let's hope for the best. With some good rest, I think he can add some fresh perspective into his bowling and hopefully uh, bid farewell on a good note, I would say.
Yeah. All right. One last question on England. Surprised to see Tongue out, or is he nursing an injury?
The latter, I believe. I think he's nursing an
He's
injury
still nursing an injury?
because it didn't make sense for me to drop out Tongue the way he bowled in second test. I think he was that glimmer. He was that person who gave that glimmer of hope in the second test, where I think England was slightly off color. So yeah, I think he's still nursing an injury which he hasn't recovered from.
Maybe, I mean, I won't disagree with that. I mean, in general, Bazball might seem a little crazy, but there is a role for everyone, right? I think Josh Tongue with his pace was the enforcer, which would, filled in for him in the third test match. Vokes, of course, is the batting all-rounder at number 8. James Sanderson, the swing bowler, and Stuart Broad with his bandana. You should include him in 11 all the time. So I think there is a role for each individual bowler, and bowlers and England have the privilege, at least in this series, to pick and choose. And maybe it might seem a little crazy, but I think it was okay, and I still feel it's fine not to have Tongue in this test match, because for me this is probably the best English bowling setup of the series.
Just the point there, right? Broad playing 4 tests back to back. I mean, Broad's also on the other side of his 36.
36, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only thing which worries me. In case he breaks down, although he's seemed supremely fit through the series, he's been putting in the hard yards, bowling whenever needed, and getting wickets. But I'm just worried about his fitness.
No, as long as Warner plays, Broad plays.
On that note, who's predicting an England win?
Just to answer your last question,
Yeah.
Suraj. So, unfortunately for Australia, since I'm going for Australia, unfortunately, Ollie Robinson has been dropped from the English side. So, that's a minus for the Australians, because that guy only ensures an Australian victory. But yeah, coming back to your question, who's expecting England to win?
Not you? Okay. Anybody else on the panel looking for a 2-2? 1-2. Bidhu is on the fence.
No, I want England to win just to keep the series alive, but it feels Australia more steadier side, and the chances of Australia winning is a bit more.
Yeah. England will win if Johnny holds on to his catches. If he doesn't drop. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see England win, just because the series is going to be alive, and then there's a decider. When's the 5th? Where is the 5th match?
Oval.
Oval.
Oval, I guess. Traditionally, that's where the final test happens.
Yeah, yeah. I wish they win. It's going to be 2-2, one final test match, and then this is what I'm hoping for, right? 2-2, and then the final test match ends in a tie, right? And then
No,
Good.
Australia winning 3-1, and then their Prime Minister showing that 3-1 card to Sunak.
right, and he'll say, I forgot to get the sandpaper again.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen,
Or
on
he
that.
might just circulate a poster of Johnny Walker, keep walking.
Well, gentlemen, on that note, we are at the end of the show. Predicting Arijit predicting a 3-1. If that happens, please find him. We will circulate his address. The rest of us predicting a 2-2. But any which way, we will see you guys at the end of the test match. And we will do another show, review of 4th and preview of 5th. Till then, please do watch us, subscribe, circulate. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.